The lecture hall at Kepler Interstellar University buzzed with nervous energy as Professor Emma Rodriguez adjusted her presentation equipment. Around her, the most diverse classroom in the galaxy settled into an uneasy silence. The crystalline, Vorthic students dimmed their natural luminescence to respectful levels, while the gaseous Netherians ensured their containment suits were properly sealed. In the back rows, the insectoid Kilthari released calming pheromones that smelled faintly of vanilla and ozone. Dr. Zephyrin, the university's most respected xenobiology professor, stood at the podium with her translucent skin shifting through nervous color patterns. Her species, the Kethmori, had survived their homeworld's toxic atmosphere by developing extreme caution regarding other life forms. Today's lecture on symbiotic relationships in Deathworld species had attracted students from across the galaxy, all eager to understand how creatures from Class 15 Deathworlds managed to coexist. "Students," Dr. Zephyrin announced, her voice carrying the melodic tones of her species, "today we welcome Professor Emma Rodriguez from Terra. As you know, Terra is classified as one of the most dangerous inhabited worlds in our galaxy, with over 90% of its species classified as potentially lethal to sentient life." Emma smiled warmly at the introduction, completely unaware of the ripple of fear that passed through the classroom. To her, this was just another academic exchange, similar to the conferences she'd attended at Berkeley or Oxford. She'd prepared what she thought would be a charming presentation about human-animal relationships, complete with photos of her pets and heartwarming anecdotes about companionship. "Thank you, Dr. Zephyrin," Emma began, clicking to her first slide. "I'm excited to share with you how humans have developed unique relationships with other Earth species. We call these relationships pet ownership, and they're one of the most cherished aspects of human culture." The first image appeared on the holographic display, a golden retriever sitting in a sunny backyard, tongue lolling out in what Emma considered an adorable expression. To the alien students, however, the creature's exposed fangs and predatory eyes triggered immediate fight or flight responses. "This is Max," Emma said fondly, her voice taking on the universal tone of a proud pet parent. "He's been part of my family for 6 years now. I keep him in my home, and he sleeps on my bed every night." The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Zephyrin's skin shifted to a deep purple, indicating severe confusion, while several Kilthari began releasing distress pheromones that made the air thick with the scent of burning metal. A brave Vorthic student, its crystalline form flashing urgent yellow patterns, was the first to speak. "Professor Rodriguez, what symbiotic function does this creature ... provide? Does it detect chemical threats? Serve as a biological weapon system?" Emma laughed, a sound that made several students instinctively reach for their emergency transponders. "Oh, Max doesn't do anything useful. He's completely helpless, actually. He can't even catch a frisbee properly, and he's terrified of the vacuum cleaner. But he's such a good boy, aren't you, Max?" She played a video of Max attempting to catch a frisbee, missing spectacularly, and then rolling around in the grass. With pure joy, the alien students watched in horror as this apex predator from a death world displayed what they could only interpret as either elaborate deception or complete madness. Asterisk. The classroom's atmosphere grew increasingly tense as Emma continued her presentation, completely oblivious to the mounting panic around her. She clicked to the next slide, which showed a collage of various pets: cats lounging in sunbeams, birds perched on human shoulders, and fish swimming in decorative tanks. "Of course, Max isn't our only pet," Emma said cheerfully. "My husband and I also have 3 cats, 2 birds, and a tank of tropical fish. It's quite common for humans to keep multiple species in their homes simultaneously." Dr. Zephyrin's translator began making distressed clicking sounds as it struggled to process the concept. "Professor Rodriguez," she said slowly, "are you indicating That humans deliberately create multi-species combat environments within their dwellings? Combat environments? Emma looked genuinely confused. Oh no, they all get along wonderfully. Well, mostly. Sometimes the cats knock over the fishbowl, and Mr. Whiskers did eat one of the birds last year. But that's just nature, right? The casual way Emma mentioned predation sent shockwaves through the classroom. A Netherian student's containment suit began emitting emergency whistles, while the Kilfari Collective released a pheromone cloud so thick with alarm that the room's air filtration system kicked into overdrive. You allow predation events in your living space? Stammered a young Vorthik, its crystalline structure flickering between terror and fascination. For entertainment? Not for entertainment, Emma corrected, then paused thoughtfully. Though, I suppose it is kind of funny when they chase each other around. We have this laser pointer that drives them absolutely crazy. They'll run into walls, trying to catch the little red dot. She demonstrated with a small device, projecting a red dot onto the wall. The alien students watched in absolute horror, as Emma described how humans deliberately triggered hunting instincts in their captive predators for amusement. The situation took a darker turn when Emma began showing pictures from her phone. This is my friend Sarah's python, Noodle. Isn't she beautiful? She's about 8 feet long and can unhinge her jaw to swallow prey larger than her head. Sarah lets her roam free around the apartment sometimes. The image of a massive serpent draped across a couch sent the classroom into chaos. Several students began evacuating, their universal translators broadcasting panic in dozens of languages. Dr. Zephelin's skin had turned a deep black, the Kethmori equivalent of a stress-induced coma. And this, Emma continued, unaware of the exodus, is my neighbor Bob's tarantula collection. He has 47 different species. Some of them are venomous, but Bob says they're mostly harmless to humans. He handles them with his bare hands. The few remaining students stared at the images of massive hairy arachnids being casually held by human hands. One brave Kilthari managed to ask, Professor, why do humans deliberately expose themselves to venomous creatures? Emma's face lit up with the kind of expression that, in any other species, would indicate predatory satisfaction. Because they're adorable. Look at those little eyes. And the way they move their little legs when they walk, it's just precious. The last few students fled, leaving only Dr. Zephelin, who is now making soft-keening sounds at her species. Produced when confronted with incomprehensible cosmic horror god, with the classroom nearly empty, Emma finally noticed something was wrong. Dr. Zephelin sat slumped in her chair, her translucent skin cycling through colors that Emma's cultural briefing had failed to explain. The few remaining students huddled together in the far corner, their various species fear responses creating a cacophony of distress signals. Is everything all right? Emma asked, her concern genuine. Did I say something wrong? Dr. Zephelin looked up with what Emma assumed was confusion, but was actually existential terror. Professor Rodriguez, I must ask directly, do humans keep these creatures as ... food reserves? Are they a form of living storage for emergency sustenance? Food? Emma laughed again, that terrifying sound that made the remaining students flinch. Oh no, we'd never eat our pets. Well, except for some cultures that eat guinea pigs. But that's different. We love our pets. They're family members. The word family sent the alien students into a fresh wave of panic. In their cultures, family bonds were sacred, representing the strongest possible emotional and protective connections. The idea that humans would extend such bonds to predatory creatures from their death world was beyond comprehension. Family, Dr. Zephelin repeated slowly, her translator struggling with the concept. You form familial bonds with combat-capable organisms? Absolutely. Emma beamed, pulling up a new series of photos. This is my childhood dog, Rusty. He lived with us for 15 years. When he died, we had a funeral and everything. My dad cried harder than I'd ever seen him cry. We buried Rusty in our backyard, next to 3 cats, 2 hamsters, and a parrot. The implications hit the alien students like a physical blow. Not only did humans keep dangerous creatures as emotional companions, but they mourned them as deeply as they would mourn their own species. The concept was so alien that several students' translators simply gave up, producing nothing but static. Emma continued, oblivious to the psychological damage she was inflicting. And the love goes both ways. There are thousands of documented cases of pets saving their human families from fires, intruders, natural disasters. Dogs have been known to refuse to leave their owners' graves. Cats have detected cancer in humans before medical equipment could. It's a beautiful relationship built on mutual trust and affection. A Vortex student, its crystalline structure, now pulsing with rapid panicked flashes, managed to ask, but surely there are regulations, government oversight, some form of control over these ... relationships? Emma shook her head enthusiastically. Quite the opposite. Human governments actively encourage pet ownership. We have pet stores, veterinary hospitals, pet insurance, dog parks, cat cafes, and even pet-friendly hotels. Some humans spend more money on their pets than they do on themselves. The revelation that human society was not only tolerant of, but actively supported these relationships sent the remaining students into shock. They had assumed that pet ownership was perhaps a fringe behavior, a dangerous quirk of a few unstable individuals from a death world. Instead, it was apparently a cornerstone of human civilization. In fact, Emma continued, warming to her subject, pets are often considered gateway relationships. Many humans start with fish or hamsters and gradually work their way up to larger, more complex animals. It's not uncommon for humans to have multiple pets throughout their lives, sometimes simultaneously keeping dozens of different species. Dr. Zephelin's translator emitted a sound like a dying star as it processed this information. The few remaining students began quietly updating their emergency contact protocols, convinced they were witnessing evidence of humanity's most terrifying characteristic, the ability to form irrational emotional bonds with anything that moved. What happened next would go down in galactic history as the Terran Pet Revelation Incident. Dr. Zephelin, in her species equivalent of a panic attack, had accidentally activated the university's emergency broadcast system. Emma's presentation was now being transmitted live to academic institutions across 3 star systems, with real-time translation into over 400 languages. The broadcast caught the attention of the Galactic Council's Xenological Safety Committee, who had been monitoring human expansion into the galaxy with growing concern. When the committee members representing 12 different species tuned in to see a human casually describing how her neighbor collected venomous creatures for emotional satisfaction, they immediately called an emergency session. Meanwhile, Emma continued her presentation, still unaware of the chaos she'd unleashed. One of the most beautiful aspects of human-pet relationships, she said, clicking to a new slide, is how they often outlive us. My grandmother's cat, Mittens, lived to be 23 years old. He was with our family longer than some of my cousins. The slide showed a memorial photo, an elderly woman holding a cat, surrounded by 3 generations of humans. The caption read, Mittens Rodriguez, 1998 to 2021, beloved family member and friend. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations watched in horror as they realized that humans formed emotional bonds so strong that they mourned creatures that outlived them. The concept of deliberately entering into a relationship, knowing you would suffer grief, was incomprehensible to most species. But the most incredible thing, Emma continued, her voice taking on the tone of someone sharing a deeply personal truth, is how pets change us. Studies show that humans with pets live longer, have lower stress levels, and report higher life satisfaction. Children raised with pets develop greater empathy and emotional intelligence. Pets don't just live in our homes, they live in our hearts. The phrase "live in our hearts" caused a diplomatic crisis on this Ephraim homeworld, where the heart was considered the seat of tactical intelligence. The Ephraimians immediately began calculating the strategic implications of humans allowing alien creatures to influence their decision-making processes. On the Netherian homeworld, the gaseous being's collective consciousness interpreted Emma's words as evidence that humans were practicing some form of biological integration with other species. Emergency protocols were activated as they prepared for the possibility of human-animal hybrid super soldiers. The broadcast reached its climax when Emma showed a video montage of cute pet moments. The compilation included puppies playing, cats purring, birds singing, and most disturbing to the alien viewers, humans baby talking to their pets in voices usually reserved for their own offspring. This is how most humans interact with their pets, Emma explained over the footage. We use special voices, give them nicknames, buy them presents, and celebrate their birthdays. Many humans consider their pets to be their children, and some even choose to have pets instead of biological offspring. The revelation that some humans preferred relationships with other species over reproduction with their own kind sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Breeding Council of Zarian immediately classified humans as a potentially invasive species, while the Keth Mori government began developing contingency plans for human adoption attempts. The broadcast ended with Emma showing a final photo. Herself at home, surrounded by her pets, all of them sleeping peacefully together on a large couch. "This is what love looks like," she said simply. Unconditional, irrational, and absolutely wonderful. As the transmission cut out, the galaxy held its collective breath, trying to process what they'd witnessed. The humans weren't just apex predators who had conquered a death world. They were emotional extremists who compulsively formed familial bonds with anything they encountered. 3 days after what the galactic media had dubbed the pet revelation, Emma Rodriguez sat in her hotel room on Kepler Station, completely bewildered by the attention her simple presentation had generated. Her personal communicator hadn't stopped chiming with interview requests from news outlets across the galaxy, and the hotel's security had to establish a perimeter to keep curious aliens from pressing their various sensory appendages against. Her Windows dot, the first sign that something significant had happened, came when Ambassador Kree Thek of the Galactic Council's Xenological Safety Committee arrived at her door, accompanied by a full diplomatic escort. The ambassador, a tall, mantis-like being with compound eyes that reflected Emma's confused face 1,000 times over, spoke in the measured tones of someone trying very hard not to cause a panic. "Professor Rodriguez," the ambassador began, his translator working overtime to convert his clicks and whistles into understandable English. "We need to discuss the implications of your presentation." Emma invited them in, offering tea in a gesture that caused the security detail to tense visibly. The sight of a human offering unknown substances to alien dignitaries had become a source of galactic anxiety since the pet revelation. "I'm not sure I understand," Emma said, settling into her chair with the same casual confidence that had terrified her lecture audience. "It was just a simple talk about pet ownership. Did I make some sort of cultural mistake?" Ambassador Kree Thek's compound eyes shifted in what Emma's cultural briefing had taught her was deep concentration. "Professor, your presentation has caused significant concern throughout the galaxy. Many species are now worried about human intentions regarding interspecies relationships." The confusion on Emma's face was so genuine that the ambassador found himself reconsidering the intelligence reports that had described humans as master manipulators. "They think we want to keep them as pets?" The possibility has been raised, the ambassador admitted carefully. Your description of forming emotional bonds with other species, combined with humanity's known tendency toward aggressive expansion, has created some alarm. Emma sat quietly for a moment, processing this information. Then, to the ambassador's horror, she began to laugh. Not the terrifying predator's laugh that had sent students fleeing, but a warm, genuinely amused sound that somehow made the situation even more unsettling. "Oh my goodness," she said, wiping tears from her eyes. "You're all afraid that humans are going to adopt the galaxy?" Before the ambassador could respond, Emma's personal communicator chimed with an incoming call from Earth. The caller ID showed a familiar name: Dr. James Chung, Director of the Human Interstellar Relations Department. "Emma," Dr. Chun's voice was tight with stress, "please tell me you didn't accidentally start a galactic incident by showing aliens pictures of your dog." "I think I might have," Emma replied, looking at the nervous alien delegation in her room. "But Jim, this is actually fascinating from an anthropological perspective. We've discovered a fundamental difference in how species approach interspecies relationships. This could be the key to better understanding." "Emma," Dr. Chun interrupted, "3 different species have requested emergency sessions with the Galactic Council. The Zephyrians want to implement a quarantine protocol around Earth. The Netherians are convinced we're planning some sort of biological integration program. And the Kilthari Collective has started releasing pheromones that translate roughly to "the humans are coming to love us to death." Emma looked at Ambassador Krethek, who was listening to the conversation with growing alarm. "Ambassador, may I ask you something directly?" "Of course, Professor. What's the most frightening thing about humans, from your perspective?" The ambassador's translator was silent for a long moment before responding. "Your capacity for irrational, emotional attachment. Most species form bonds based on mutual benefit, shared genetics, or survival necessity. But humans form emotional connections with anything. You love creatures that can't reciprocate, that drain your resources. That might even be dangerous to you, and you do it gladly." Emma nodded slowly. "And that scares you because it means there's no logical limit to what you might try to befriend," the ambassador finished. "You've demonstrated that you'll form familial bonds with predators, parasites, and creatures that provide no survival advantage. The question that keeps the Galactic Council awake at night is, what happens when you decide you want to be friends with us?" The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Emma realized that what humans saw as their greatest strength, their capacity for love and emotional connection, was being interpreted by the galaxy as their most dangerous weapon. "Ambassador," Emma said finally, "I think I have an idea for how to fix this. But I'm going to need to make another presentation." And that's how Emma Rodriguez became the first human ambassador to the Galactic Council, tasked with explaining to the galaxy that humans didn't want to adopt them as pets. They wanted something far more radical and terrifying. They wanted to be friends. The galaxy was still trying to figure out if that was better or worse. Back on Earth, Max the Golden Retriever was blissfully unaware that he had become the most famous dog in galactic history. He was too busy failing to catch a frisbee, just as dogs had been doing for millennia, completely content in the knowledge that his human would love him regardless of his athletic abilities. Sometimes the galaxy's greatest mysteries could be found in the simplest truths. Asterisk.